With opening weekend now officially behind us, we have the answers to our most burning Thunderbolts-related questions, and a whole host of brand new theories to speculate on. What does it all mean? Where do we go next? And what do I think of it all? Time to find out. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today's video, I am going to be breaking down Thunderbolts, as we now have all of our questions answered and new ones to think about, so let's talk about it all. Plus, stick around to the end of the video where I will be ranking all of the major characters. Before I hop into the actual video itself, I just wanted to let you all know that I have carefully curated playlists for every type of video I do. Be it video essays / spoiler videos like this one, ranking videos, top 10s versus videos, and so much more. There is a playlist for all. So I encourage you to explore the channel, and I guarantee you'll find something you like. And if by some chance you don't, then feel free to suggest something you might like. And so without further ado, let's hop right into things. Alright, let's get the most obvious one out of the way first. The elephant in the room, if you will. Or so it was. What does the asterisk mean? If you've already seen the movie, then you already know, and if you haven't seen the movie and don't plan on it, and you're just curious, it's pretty simple. The name Thunderbolts comes from a story about Elena's childhood Pee Wee soccer team who didn't win a single game. It was first mentioned as a joke by John Walker, and then once Red Guardian heard it, he was elated because he coached the team and just ran with it. But it was never the team's true name or the movie's true title, as the team and movie are now known as the New Avengers. Now, I have no idea if this was the plan all along or something that came up along the way or what. But all I know is that Marvel was quick to reveal this and rebrand the movie, because almost first thing Monday morning, if not Sunday night, they shared a video of the cast ripping off the Thunderbolts title on a poster, rebranding the billboards, and sharing new posters and the official short little logo video reveal thing all over social media. Like, it was everywhere. Although I did just read, as I was writing this video not too long ago, that director Jake Schreier included the asterisk in his last pitch meeting before getting the job. He said it was something so small to him at first, put a little something by the name to indicate that it's until we come up with something better, he said. And they not only loved it, but ran with it and made it one of the biggest pieces of marketing material. And then I also just saw that it was actually Kevin Feige who suggested the asterisk should lead to them being named the New Avengers. Pretty regularly in the build-up to this movie, I saw people referring to it as Marvel's Suicide Squad, and it seemed like a lot of the marketing kind of leaned into that. So naturally, there was a lot of theories and speculation as to who dies and how. Then we got the Doomsday cast reveal like a month before the movie's release, and they just straight up announced that everyone but Taskmaster would be in it. I still personally held out hope that they weren't just outright spoiling their upcoming movie, and kept reiterating to people who disagreed that we're dealing with the multiverse and Skrulls in these next two Avengers movies. So who knows if they'd be playing these characters, seeing as how RDJ is playing Doctor Doom, or these versions of these characters that are appearing in Thunderbolts, and not like some twisted what-if versions. Or, you know, they're just plain old Skrulls. Turns out I really was being hopelessly optimistic, because no one dies but Taskmaster. It's kind of a shame too, because they really didn't hide it at all. Taskmaster was often at the back of the posters, or barely visible, and seldom popped up in the trailers. It even got to the point where one trailer had Taskmaster in it, and the next trailer would show the exact same shot and scene, the real scene, and Taskmaster was nowhere to be seen. If you ask me, killing her off so unceremoniously was a mistake. I have my own ideas of how she could have been used, but since the movie's release, known leaker/scooper Daniel RPK has revealed what Taskmaster's role was in at least one version of the script, and the media outlet Polygon revealed her would-be role in a different version of the script, and since I wrote this, the writer has actually come out and confirmed these things. The version Daniel RPK revealed had a recurring gag where Taskmaster would suffer from memory loss and keep reverting back to her mission to kill John Walker, with the pair eventually kind of settling it and becoming friends and everything's hunky-dory by the end. The one Polygon published involved her becoming much closer to Ghost as the movie progressed, with it being a pretty serious subplot, and they created a very sisterhood-like bond. She survived both of those versions. Me personally, look, I fully understand that this take on the character did not go over well with fans, but I can't help but feel bad for the character and the actress. Besides that though, I also feel like there were some missed opportunities here too. I honestly wish they played a bit more with the post-Taskmaster death stuff. Yelena mentions knowing her twice and that she didn't deserve to go out that way or the life that she had, even snapping at Ghost and John Walker for picking some of her gear off her body, but then they leave it there and never mention her again. I feel like they could have used her death to their advantage a bit more. Like, if they were dead set on killing the character instead of letting her live, I think they could have used it more in Yelena's arc. In my mind, it could have worked the same way that Yelena and Alexi's relationship started to go at the end of the movie. Maybe alter it slightly so it's more of a realization for Alexi that Yelena needed him, and a realization for Yelena that Taskmaster needed her, or even the three of them, because they're all kind of together in that, Black Widow side of Marvel. I also feel like there are some strong arguments for keeping her alive, too. I really feel she would have fit in so well with the team in terms of where all the story stuff goes. They're all seen as villains, but they're more so products of their environment, and who would have a more tragic story than her? A victim of collateral damage as a young girl, then turned into a brainwashed super assassin. I think there was potential for some really meaningful moments between her and Yelena too that we were robbed of. But in the end, the decision makers felt that they had too many S.H.I.E.L.D. characters and thought it would be better to kill the character off as a quick joke and basically not mention her ever again. Understandably, this really pissed off the actress, and that's why she's barely done any promo for the movie. Just like her death is used in the movie, I'll also use Taskmaster's death as my segue to Bob. Yes, Bob, just Bob. That is until he becomes the Sentry and then the Void. Essentially, Bob is the only survivor of Val's secret experiment, Project Sentry, where she had scientists working for her to create her own superhero that she can control and then brand and advertise to the world as Earth's mightiest hero. Only problem, all of her test subjects keep dying, including Bob, or so she thought. Once other parties caught wind of Val's potential involvement and wrongdoing, she shut the project down and started burning the evidence and tying up all the loose ends, i.e. every member of the Thunderbolts. Bob's body was in the giant incinerator that the Thunderbolts were lured into, except it turns out that it's actually just Bob and he's alive. From there, he falls into Val's hands and she manipulates him into thinking he's some great hero ready to be revealed to the world, that he survived because he's meant for something greater, and he's falling for it. But what wins him over more than anything is that she pretends to care. She pretends to give a shit about him, saying she knows all about his past and that she understands and she's here for him, and so he agrees to become the Sentry, a Superman-esque hero who first premiered in the Marvel Comics back in 2000. After turning on Val, coming to terms with the fact that he has these powers and abilities and doesn't need to take orders from anyone, Val's assistant Mel flips the kill switch implanted in his head and seemingly kills him off, or at least a part of him. As his lifeless body lay there, his darker side takes over, the Void, a literal manifestation of his fear, anger, remorse, guilt, and more. I mean, really, it's his depression taking over. The Void then becomes the villain as he, or it, begins to engulf New York in total darkness. This led to a terrifying sequence where he just starts turning people into shadows, with the design disturbingly inspired by what was left of the victims of the Hiroshima blast. And that's followed by an insanely cool sequence where we see the darkness, shadow, void, or whatever you call it, spread across New York. We just get these eerie and unsettling shots where it's the city that never sleeps, suddenly blacking out and going dead quiet. I loved it. Although, of course, it's important to note that these people aren't dying, as we come to find out. They're more so being transported into the void, possibly right into Bob's mind, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not really sure of the metrics of it, but anyway. This is where they are trapped inside their own worst, most traumatic memories and doomed to repeat them indefinitely, which to some people is arguably even worse than death. I do want to add too that although I have very few gripes with this movie, one of them is how quickly Bob switches from Bob to the Sentry. We see one scene where Val's people are working around him and getting like his suit set up and stuff like that, and that he tries to use his powers and doesn't do really anything more than shatter a glass, and then the next scene he's in his full Sentry getup, suit, hair, and all that jazz, and he's suddenly zipping around all confident, taking care of the Thunderbolts with ease. Just felt incredibly abrupt to me. But I do also have to commend Lewis Pullman for his work as Bob, because I think he was the perfect choice to bring this character to life. The timidness, the disorientation, the various hairstyles and outfits, the ferocity, the doubt, anger, sadness, frustration, Pullman brought it all. I adored seeing how fragile the character was and how seamlessly Pullman portrayed that. He is so easily swayed and manipulated because he just wants to belong. He wants to be loved, accepted, and seen. I may be off on this too, but they must have been alluding to the fact that Bob has bipolar disorder, right? The constant mention of having good days, bad days, and blackouts. Then the abusive past, struggles with drugs and homelessness. I get that this could just be plain old depression and such, but him having two sides to him made me lean more towards the bipolar metaphor. Either way, I'm very interested to hear what you fine folks think about that one. Let's switch over to a more positive note. Well, kind of. Positive from my perspective. Early on, it's established that Bob has some sort of ability where he can transport people into their own minds, or more particularly their memories. Their most traumatic, disturbing, and shameful memories. These moments were some of my favorite in the movie. That's where the positive part comes in. We get to see multiple of Yelena's memories, which makes sense considering she's the main character. The first and arguably the darkest is a flashback to Yelena's first test for the Red Room. When she was a young child, she lured a friend of hers out into the wintry woods to be executed. In the final act, we see this one take place in a nightmarish loop before Yelena jumps into another memory where a group of young girls are seated along a long table where they have to assemble a pistol as fast as they can. The first to finish doesn't get their palms literally whipped. Obviously, Yelena finishes first because, she's the main character and then she feels the guilt and everything. And then the final memory I can recall is when she comes face to face with herself collapsed on the bathroom floor with a bottle of liquor in her hand, showing just how low she got. And though we didn't see any pill bottles or anything like that, something tells me there are certain things we're supposed to infer here that Marvel wasn't willing to bluntly spell out for us. The only other characters we get a glimpse into the minds of are John Walker, where we see him consumed by his tarnished public image, leading to him lashing out and neglecting his duties as a father and husband, and Val's, who we see reliving the moment her father was murdered in front of her as a young girl. These visions were mostly brief, but incredibly dark, telling, and impactful. A superb exercise in show, don't tell. We get just a brief peek at their inner demons, the things they bury deep down. Their traumas, dirty secrets, shames, and regrets. I can't express enough how much I dug this idea and then the execution of it. I guess this means I should talk about the final act now, because that's where we see Yelena's other memories and get to see Bob's backstory in action. This is likely Marvel's strangest and most unorthodox finale. There's no big bad villain to take down, no ship battle in space, no faceless army. It's primarily Yelena confronting her own demons and then trying to find Bob to save him from his own darkness. Eventually, she does find him sitting on the floor in an attic. he says the other rooms are worse, and that genuinely broke my heart. As the two talk, we hear a shouting match below and get an obstructed view of it from the parted floorboards. It's Bob's parents, and he tells us that it'll stop soon. But knowing what we know about these rooms, they run on an indefinite loop, so he just keeps reliving this over and over. Val briefly informed us earlier about Bob's past, but now we actually get to see and hear his father's abuse. And even when Bob tries to step in and stick up for his mother, she shoots him down, and the two of them gang up on Bob. Again, this crushed me. Pair that with everything else we know about Bob, like his drug addiction, his mental state, homelessness, and then obviously his willingness to offer up his body, well, really his life, to an experimental, shady superhero-making project. Then the room starts attacking Yelena and Bob poltergeist style before the Thunderbolts burst in to save the day. This moment disappointed a lot of people because although we all saw it coming, I think a lot of folks were intrigued by the idea of seeing everyone's rooms. Instead, we get a couple of quick jokes about how messed up it was to get there. One particular sarcastically delivered remark from Bucky got me to chuckle, but that's about it. They then move on through the rest of the final act together as a team. I think this was both a good and bad decision. I think it was a good decision in terms of pacing and maintaining that Yelena is the main character. I think if we started character hopping in the third act, and each of the 4 other characters got as much attention as Yelena, it would have pushed the movie an additional 20 to 30 minutes. On the other hand, it could have been something truly exceptional. Seeing Walker deal with the fallout of his actions from the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and after, we now know that his wife and kid left him. Seeing Alexei handle his fall from grace. Ghost reliving the trauma of growing up in a lab, being tested on and unable to control her powers. And then, of course, Bucky. Though we've already seen and heard a ton of his story, I wouldn't have hated seeing more, and really more particularly, seeing him witness some of his past actions from the outside. I do think it's for the best that we didn't see all of Bob's though. His allusion to the fact that this particular room is the best of the bunch was enough for me. I wouldn't have complained seeing more, but I also think it's possible that might have taken things too dark. At least with all the other characters, it would be things we've already seen in the MCU, like Bucky's stuff, the Red Room stuff, and so on. But seeing a young boy and young man being abused by their father, doing meth, dealing with homelessness, and so on, might have been a bit too much. I genuinely can't remember if they already mentioned this or not in a recent project. To be completely honest, some of this is starting to feel like homework, like the MCU I mean, making many elements tough to keep up with, but it was Val who bought Avengers Tower. After years of build-up and speculation, was it Norman Osborn, was it the Fantastic Four, was it Wilson Fisk, was it this hero or that villain, and so on? But it's just Val. Val bought it, which is insanely underwhelming if you ask me. Cool that they had that scene with the Thunderbolts versus the Sentry, but beyond that it feels like they kept it a secret for no real reason. All that build-up for nothing. One of the most underwhelming possibilities. As for the post-credits scene, it's the most meaningful one we've had in a while, a good long while. It starts pretty simple with a few Disney-style jokes. Sam Wilson is suing them for using Avengers in their team name. Alexei Solution is calling themselves the Avengers with a Z, and he's got jumpsuits done up and everything. Each member has a new suit that isn't those jumpsuits, and they've been in active duty for a little while. And also Bob lives with them in Avengers Tower, but remains there, not being the Sentry for fear of also unleashing the Void again. They get an alert that a multi-dimensional, unidentifiable ship has entered their atmosphere. When they switch to the feed to get a closer look at what they'll be dealing with, we see a silver, oddly shaped ship with the iconic Fantastic Four logo on it. Of course, everyone speculated that the multiverse would come into play in order to get the F4 into the next few Avengers movies, especially considering these Avengers movies will conclude the multiverse saga, but now it's official. And naturally, this has many fans speculating if we saw the Fantastic Four's point of view for this event in the First Steps trailer. We see this moment, and now we're left wondering if that's a black hole, or a dimensional or universal tear, if that's their world being destroyed, etc. Some people were whining too that this post-credits scene spoils stuff for First Steps, but I disagree. We all knew it was coming because each member is already confirmed for Avengers Doomsday. In fact, I feel like this has done the opposite and actually has people speculating and theorizing more than the trailers ever did. And now, as promised, just to have a little bit of extra fun at the end of the video, let's rank the Thunderbolts from my least favorite to my favorite. And maybe we'll also throw in Mel, Bob, and Val too, since they're all pretty major parts of the story. So that gives us, like, what, 9 characters? Sure, 9. And 9th is obviously going to be Taskmaster. Like I said earlier in this video, I think they missed multiple opportunities here. If they were dead set on killing her off, they could have done more with it than just 1 or 2 quick mentions from Yelena. And if they kept her alive, they could have gone any which way they wanted. One of the previous drafts with her either connecting with John Walker or Ghost, or even my suggestion of having more to do with Yelena or Yelena and Alexei. But instead, all we got was a quick shot to the head and a puking joke. Shame. From number 8 onward, I loved all of these characters. Like, I sat there whipping up this script and struggled deciding who should be 8th. But for 8th, I'd probably go with Mel, unfortunately. I loved Geraldine's performance, but in terms of character, she doesn't have much of an arc or anything. 7th, I'd say Val, only because she's sort of the typical sleazy, backstabbing government-type villain. Like, it's so obvious they were all sent to kill one another in the very beginning. So obvious she's the bad guy and all that, so yeah. But I will say Julia Louis-Dreyfus delivered a truly solid performance. A character I didn't care much for in the beginning that I can't wait to see more of. 6th, probably Ghost. It's tough because I thought Ghost was good, not great, in Ant-Man and the Wasp, but always felt there was potential for improvement. Hannah John Kamen is a wonderful actress, and Ghost had an interesting power set, so thankfully Jake Schreier took advantage of that, and Thunderbolts is the story where I think they took her from good to great. For 5th, I actually think I'm going with Bucky. I feel like he had the least bit of character progression, mostly because we've already gotten so much of his story, and he got the fewest emotional moments in the movie. Sebastian Stan delivers as expected, and he's got some standout action-centric moments, but I think they could have done more with him in this particular story. 4th, I'll go with Red Guardian. It was a toss-up between him and Walker because I loved Alexei's moments with Yelena in the 3rd act. Easily some of my favorite in the movie.
Lena, when I look at you, I don't see your mistakes.
But that being said, his comedic relief moments were hit or miss. Most of them I laughed at, but sometimes I kind of thought, you know what, you probably could have just left that alone. I will say though that David Harbour impressed the hell out of me with his range, flipping back and forth between goofy over-the-top Russian anti-hero and absent father and broken man. All of that was performed seamlessly, and again, I guess that's also kind of a spoiler, but that speech that's alluded to in the trailer with all that stuff between him and Yelena was magnificent. 3rd has to be John Walker. Wyatt Russell is easily among the most underrated actors working today, and I already loved his work in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He went above and beyond here. The moments where he's being an asshole, the moments where he had this quiet intensity, the jokes, and the more emotional moments filled with regret and guilt. He delivered, plain and simple. 2nd has gotta be Bob, for all the reasons I mentioned earlier. Lewis Pullman was the perfect fit, and the man continues to prove that he's one of the best rising talents in the industry. Also kind of funny how both he and Wyatt Russell are Nepo babies, but they don't need the help. They're both insanely talented. And of course that leaves Yelena as my number 1. Not only is she the best in the movie, but it's one of my favorite MCU performances in recent memory. I loved her work here. You feel everything she feels. You understand where she's coming from. She feels like a badass when she needs to, and her more comedic moments landed with me too. I know some people don't love the accent, but I never minded it. Mostly because if it doesn't take me out of the movie or the moment, then I don't really care. I can't wait to see more of her. She was marvelous here, further proving what a powerhouse Florence Pugh really is. And that's it, folks. Your most burning Thunderbolts questions answered. My spoiler-filled thoughts, the post-credit scene explored, and the characters ranked. It's been a few days since I saw the movie as of the recording of this video, and I have got to say that Thunderbolts is still actively on my mind. I'm already planning to go see it again. And although they're now officially calling it the New Avengers, they're always going to be the West Chesapeake Bay Thunderbolts, sponsored by Shane's Tire Shop, at least according to Yelena, but Alexi might still disagree, to me. So that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments below if you agree or disagree with my take on this particular topic. While you're at it, don't forget to let me know what you thought about Thunderbolts. Did you love it, hate it, think it was just okay? What do you think about the meaning behind the asterisk and the new title? Were you disappointed by Taskmaster's death? Were you hyped to see the Fantastic Four logo pop up in the post-credits scene? And how would you rank the Thunderbolts characters? Comment below and let me know. As a reminder, this is the revamped BAMTube Movies, and it is your one-stop for everything movies, be it video essays / spoiler discussions like this one, ranking videos, top 10 videos, versus videos, tier list videos. I have it all and so much more, along with your daily nerdy news wrap-ups, where I keep you up to date on everything movies, gaming, and TV related. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that little bell icon so you don't miss a thing. As always, folks, I thank you all so very much for watching. Stay happy, healthy, and safe out there. From myself and the rest of the BAMTube team, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time, and that's a wrap.